There is something you do every single morning without realizing it. Before your feet even touch the floor, before your first conscious thought fully forms, you perform an act of creation so automatic and so invisible that it has been running your entire life from the shadows. You open your eyes, you look around, and you accept what you see as the truth. The bills on the counter, the weight on your body, the tension in your relationship, the number in your bank account. You scan your environment and you say, without words, without even knowing you are saying it, this is what is real. And in that single unexamined moment, you have just placed your order for tomorrow. This is the habit that is keeping you exactly where you are, and breaking it is the most important thing you will ever learn to do. Let's begin with what everyone gets wrong about reality. You believe that the world you see around you is solid, fixed, objective. You believe it exists independently of you, that it was here before you looked at it, and will remain unchanged after you look away. You treat your circumstances the way you treat the walls of your house, permanent structures that you must work within, navigate around, or at best, slowly renovate over the course of many exhausting years. But here is what you have never been told. Your physical reality is not a wall. It is a printout. It is the printed receipt of a transaction that already happened. The transaction was your past focus, your past emotions, your past beliefs running on a loop so consistent that they produced a physical result you can now see and touch. The circumstances you woke up to this morning are not today's reality. They are yesterday's echo. They are the delayed physical expression of where your energy was weeks, months, sometimes years ago. This changes everything, because if your current reality is an old receipt, then reacting to it emotionally is like arguing with a receipt from a purchase you already made. You can stare at it, you can crumple it up, you can shout at it, but it will not change the purchase. The transaction is already complete. The only thing that matters now is what you order next. And what you order next is determined entirely by where you place your attention right now. Now here is where this gets uncomfortable. Because what I am about to suggest will feel deeply irresponsible to the part of you that has been trained to be realistic. I am suggesting that you learn to strategically ignore your current reality, not deny it, not pretend it doesn't exist, not avoid your responsibilities or stop paying your bills. That is not what this is. This is something far more precise and far more powerful. Strategic ignoring means you stop giving your unwanted circumstances the authority to dictate how you feel. You stop allowing the number in your bank account to determine your sense of security. You stop letting a difficult conversation from yesterday define the story of your relationship. You stop using your current physical condition as the final verdict on your health. You look at these things the way a film director looks at yesterday's rough footage. You acknowledge it exists. You note what needs to change. And then you turn your full creative attention to the scene you are going to shoot today. This is not denial. Denial is unconscious. Denial is closing your eyes and pretending the fire isn't burning while the room fills with smoke. What I am describing is the opposite of unconscious. It is the most conscious, deliberate, disciplined act of focus you are capable of. It is looking directly at the fire, understanding exactly what caused it, and then choosing with full awareness to stop feeding it your oxygen. Because that is what your emotional reaction to unwanted circumstances is. It is oxygen. Every time you look at your problems and feel the surge of frustration, the tightening in your stomach, the familiar sinking feeling of, here we go again, you are breathing life into the very thing you want to die. You are performing emotional CPR on a reality you claim you want to leave behind. Let me show you how this works with a picture you already understand. Imagine you are standing in front of a mirror. The reflection you see is your current physical reality, everything happening in your external world. Now, imagine you don't like what the reflection is showing you. Your posture is slumped, your expression is tired, your clothes are wrinkled. What do? No sane person reaches toward the mirror and tries to straighten the reflection's posture. No one grabs a tiny iron and attempts to press the wrinkles in the mirror's version of their shirt. You understand instinctively that the reflection has no independent existence. It is entirely dependent on you, the one standing in front of the glass. If you want the reflection to change, you must change yourself. You stand up straighter. You adjust your clothes. You shift your expression. And the mirror, without resistance, without delay, without argument, shows you the new image. Your external reality operates on this identical principle, but with one critical difference that most people miss. The mirror of reality has a delay. It does not update instantly. There is a lag between when you change your internal state and when the external world reflects that change back to you. And this delay is where almost everyone gives up. You change your inner state for a day, maybe two. You hold a new vision. You feel genuine optimism for the first time in months. You start to believe that something different is possible. And then you look around and nothing has changed. The bills are still there. The job is still draining. The relationship is still tense. And in that moment of looking, in that moment of checking the mirror for evidence, you abandon your new inner state and collapse back into the old one. You interpret the unchanged reflection as proof that your effort was pointless. But it wasn't pointless. You simply didn't wait long enough. You pulled the seed out of the ground to check if it was growing, and then declared that seeds don't work. The delay is not a flaw in the system. It is a feature. It exists to test the sincerity of your new state. It asks you a simple question. Do you believe in this new version of yourself only when the evidence supports it? Or do you believe in it regardless of what the old reflection is still showing? Your answer to that question determines everything. Let's talk about what it actually looks like to ignore reality in a way that is practical and sustainable. Because this is not a one-time dramatic gesture. You do not wake up one morning, declare that you are ignoring your problems, and then float through life in a blissful haze. This is a practice, a discipline, a moment-by-moment choice that you make dozens of times a day, especially when it is difficult, especially when every external signal is screaming at you to react. The first thing you must understand is that your reality has a voice, and that voice is loud. It speaks through your bank statements, through the comments of people around you, through the news, through your own habitual thoughts that replay on a loop so familiar you mistake them for truth. This voice says things like, "Be realistic." It says, "Who are you kidding?" It says, "Look at the evidence. Look at your history. People like you don't get to have that." This voice sounds rational. It sounds mature. It sounds like the responsible adult in the room. And that is precisely what makes it so dangerous. Because that voice is not wisdom. It is an echo. It is the sound of your past repeating itself, dressed up in the language of reason, trying to convince you that the future must look like yesterday. It is using your own intelligence against you, constructing perfectly logical arguments for why things will never change, all based on evidence from a reality that is already old. It is like a historian trying to write tomorrow's newspaper using only last year's archives. The logic is flawless. The conclusion is completely wrong. Your job is not to argue with this voice. Arguing with it gives it energy and importance. Your job is to hear it, recognize it for what it is, a recording from the past, and then gently, without drama, without force, place your attention somewhere else. Now here is where we build the bridge between ignoring the old and creating the new, because ignoring alone is not enough. A vacuum must be filled. If you simply withdraw your attention from your current reality without directing it somewhere specific, it will drift right back to the familiar problems within minutes. Nature does not tolerate empty space. Your mind will fill the gap with whatever is most emotionally charged, and for most people that is worry. This is why you need a living vision, not a goal, not a 5-year plan, not a vision board collecting dust on your bedroom wall. A living vision is something you inhabit with your full sensory imagination on a daily basis. It is not something you look at from the outside. It is something you step into. Let me show you the difference. A goal sounds like this. I want to earn 6 figures by the end of the year. It lives in your head. It is intellectual. It creates pressure and a timeline and an implied threat of failure. A living vision sounds like this. You close your eyes and you are sitting at a table in a restaurant you love. Across from you is someone whose company fills you with warmth. You can feel the weight of the menu in your hands. You can hear the low murmur of conversation around you. You glance at the prices and feel nothing but ease, because money is not something you think about with tension anymore. It flows to you and through you as naturally as your breath. You feel light. You feel free. You feel like exactly the person you always knew you could be. Do you feel the difference? The goal creates tension. The vision creates a feeling. And the feeling is the actual signal that reshapes your reality. Your circumstances do not respond to your intellectual plans. They respond to your dominant emotional state. They respond to who you are being, not what you are doing. The vision gives you a place to practice being the person who already has what you want, which generates the emotional frequency that your external world must eventually mirror. But let me address the objection that is already forming in your mind, because I can feel it from here. You are thinking, this sounds like self-delusion. You are telling me to ignore my problems and live in a fantasy. That is not practical. That is not responsible. That is how people end up worse off than they started. I understand why you think that, and I want to honor that concern, because it comes from a protective part of you that has kept you safe for a very long time. But let me offer you a reframe that might change your perspective. You are already living in a fantasy. You just don't realize it. The reality you call solid and objective is itself a construction. It is a story assembled from selective attention, personal interpretation, emotional bias, and years of repetitive thought. Two people can stand in the exact same room, look at the exact same circumstances, and experience two completely different realities. One sees opportunity everywhere. The other sees only threat. Neither of them is seeing the room objectively. Both of them are seeing a version of the room filtered through the lens of their dominant internal state. You are not choosing between fantasy and reality. You are choosing between an old fantasy that you created unconsciously and a new one that you create on purpose. The question is not whether you are going to tell yourself a story. You are always telling yourself a story. The question is whether you are going to keep telling the same painful story on autopilot, or whether you are going to consciously author a new one that actually serves you. The person who wakes up every morning and thinks, "Nothing ever works out for me," is engaging in exactly as much fantasy as the person who wakes up and thinks, "I am moving towards something beautiful." Neither statement is a verifiable fact about the future. Both are acts of imagination. One just happens to produce suffering, and the other happens to produce possibility. So here is the practice, laid out plainly. And I want you to approach it not as a theory to evaluate, but as an experiment to run. Each morning, before you check your phone, before you look at your email, before you allow the world to hand you its agenda, take 5 minutes to close your eyes and step into your living vision. Feel it, not as a wish, not as a someday. Feel it as a present tense experience happening to you right now. Let the emotions of that reality wash through your body. Let your nervous system register the feeling of having what you want. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breathing deepen. Let the corners of your mouth soften into the quiet smile of someone whose life is working. Then open your eyes and go about your day. But here is the critical instruction. When you encounter something in your external world that contradicts your vision, and you will, do not give it your emotional energy. See it. Acknowledge it. Handle it practically if action is required. But do not let it back into the driver's seat of your emotional state. Do not let an unexpected bill rewrite the story you told yourself that morning. Do not let a difficult conversation erase the feeling of peace you cultivated in those 5 quiet minutes. The old reality will present its case loudly and repeatedly. Your job is to receive the information without accepting the emotional verdict. Throughout the day, whenever you notice yourself slipping into old patterns of worry, frustration, or despair, catch yourself without judgment. This is not a failure. This is the practice itself. The practice is not maintaining perfect focus. The practice is the return. It is the gentle, patient act of noticing you have wandered back into the old room and choosing once again to walk back into the new one. Every single return strengthens the neural pathway to your new reality. Every return is a vote for the life you are choosing over the life you are leaving behind. In the evening, before you sleep, revisit your vision one final time. Let the last emotional imprint of your day be the feeling of the reality you are creating, not the echo of the one you are releasing. Your subconscious mind is extraordinarily active during sleep. Whatever emotional state you carry into the night becomes the blueprint it works with for hours. Hand it the right blueprint. Now, something strange will begin to happen, and I want to prepare you for it so you don't mistake it for failure. As you begin to genuinely shift your internal state, your external reality will sometimes appear to get worse before it gets better. Old problems may intensify. Unexpected challenges may surface. People who were comfortable with the old version of you may suddenly become resistant or even hostile. This is not a sign that the process is failing. It is a sign that it is working. Think of it like renovating a house. Before the new kitchen appears, the old one must be torn out. There is a period of dust and noise and apparent destruction that looks nothing like the beautiful finished space you envisioned. But the demolition is not the opposite of progress. It is the first phase of it. The old structures must come down before the new ones can be built. If you panic during the demolition and try to put the old cabinets back, you will never get the kitchen you wanted. Your life works the same way. When old patterns begin to break apart, it can feel chaotic and frightening. Relationships may shift. Situations that you tolerated for years may suddenly become intolerable. You may feel a strange restlessness, a sense that the ground beneath your familiar life is no longer solid. This is not collapse. This is rearrangement. The universe is clearing space for the new configuration that matches your new signal. Your only job during this transition is to hold your inner state steady, not perfectly, not rigidly, steadily, like a captain navigating through a storm who does not pretend the waves aren't there but refuses to let them change the destination. You keep your hand on the wheel. You keep your eyes on the horizon. You trust that the storm is temporary and the course is true. I want to leave you with this. The reality you are living in right now is a finished painting. It is done. The brush strokes have dried. You can admire it or resent it, but you cannot change it by touching the canvas. The only thing you can do is pick up a fresh canvas, choose new colors, and begin painting something different. And you do this not with your hands, but with your attention, with your focus, with the quiet, stubborn, daily refusal to let the old painting tell you what the new one must look like. You have been staring at the old painting for so long that you have forgotten you are the artist. You have been so mesmerized by the details of the image, every brush stroke of disappointment, every shadow of failure, every muted color of compromise, that you forgot you were the one who painted it, and you are the one who can paint something new. But you must be willing to look away first. You must be willing to turn from the old canvas, even while it is still hanging on the wall. You must be willing to tolerate the discomfort of not yet seeing the new painting while simultaneously refusing to keep staring at the old one. This gap, this space between the old and the new, is where most people lose their nerve. It feels like standing in the dark. It feels like nothing is happening. It feels like you are foolish for believing in something you cannot yet see. But this space is not empty. It is the most creative space in the universe. It is the space where every new reality takes shape before it becomes visible. It is the fertile darkness before the dawn, the silence before the music begins, the blank canvas before the first stroke of color. Learn to love this space. Learn to trust it. because everything you have ever wanted is taking shape inside it right now, waiting for you to stop staring at the old painting long enough for it to finally come into view.